So who says that you have to use Warhammer 40k models to represent the faction that they're from? Let's take a look at some decidedly Orkian Necron Astartes, Skaven Guardsmen and Bretonnian Admech, with a roundup of some really fun conversions from the community. Hello and welcome back to Warspec Tactics, where today for something different I thought we'd take a look at some out-of-the-box thinking for making armies work for Warhammer 40k, with some ways that you could make a 40k army out of something really quite different, or smash two armies together as a hobby project to make something utterly unique. For this one I had a really fun suggestion based around a conversion style video, so a big thank you to Steve, Rowan and Finn for the idea for this. But basically the idea was for a roundup of a whole bunch of different Warhammer 40k armies, where you might use one faction's miniatures to represent an entire extra army, or even some small effective kit bashes, borrowing a model from another army's lineup, and making them work for an army that they might not otherwise be intended for. I feel like there's loads of good reasons to do this. You might just have a miniature in your army range that you're not too keen on the look of, and you might be able to make something far more impressive via a kit bash. I feel like characters and heroes can often be a good one for this, but also things like Orky scrap creations, great demon abominations, and things like that. And sometimes it could be a money saving thing as well. If there's a miniature that might make a suitable proxy, then it could save you a lot of money on buying the recent Games Workshop fancy kit. For this one I thought I'd do a roundup of some of those, but also a few people have gone utterly next level and basically kit bash an entire army with their own custom lore. Some seriously unique armies of cross-faction miniatures. With that in mind, I asked you guys for a bunch of examples from your painting tables out there. I was fairly blown away with the response. Loads of really cool miniatures flooded in. So an enormous thank you to all the hobbyists who took their time to share their miniatures and any lore and backstory for them. There was certainly far more stuff than I could fit in any one video, but if this one has a bit of interest, I'm sure we might be able to do a round 2. I'll leave that same channel poll links down in the video description if you wanted to submit some miniatures yourself. Let's jump into it though, and for a first example, we've got some rather excellent looking Space Skaven from the Imperium of Rat. I feel like as Warhammer 40k fan request armies go, doing some sort of Ratmen army in Warhammer 40k is one of the ones that comes back time and time again. I guess going back from when Games Workshop perhaps had a lot more overlap between their armies in their fantasy setting in 40k, elves becoming Eldar, dwarves becoming squats, and orcs and chaos taking to the stars as well. For whatever reason, Games Workshop didn't go down the sort of rats in space sort of vibe. There were some pretty cool Skaven models out there, maybe not too surprising that people make their own from time to time. I feel like some of my favourite ones that they posted were these big and chunky Skaven elites here, all fitted out with maws and shields to represent Bulgrin, but looks like they've got plenty of warpstone infused cabling going into those big muscles and things. I think the Skaven Crude Sentinel is really quite a fun and effective conversion there. A little ratty pilot with a banner sticking out the top, a wooden effect sort of fuel tank there with a whole bunch of glowing green cabling and some fumes coming off it. Then we've got what looks like to be an all very triple-headed ratty version of Canis Rex, I'd guess. Great big glowing warpstone crystals on the base of the thing, a little rat thing emerging from a bunker underneath its foot, the las impulsor being augmented with extra technology, and a whole bunch of mutated parts bursting out of the thing. I like the three-headed rat thing instead of the hull. I don't know if that's from a hell pit abomination or something. It looks like something grisly is held in its talons as well. Then seems like the next one along the line is standing in for an Imperial assassin of some description. I'd guess maybe Vindicare, judging by that long rifle. I want to maybe say that there's a few Admech parts at play there. And then on the top right there we've got a whole bunch of hunched over clan rat conscripts. I feel like they look rather effective as little hordes marching forward to battle, all ready to die for the Rat Emperor or whatever. Thanks for sending those in, it's a really good concept and well executed too. Next up, and perhaps for an equally wild fusion of armies, we've got this Iron Hands Space Marines and Necrons combo sent in by Littlebox. I guess the Iron Hands consider that flesh is weak, and apparently this one's based around some alternative Dornian heresy lore. Well, I guess the idea must be that the Iron Hands have basically gone in league with the Necrons somehow. It seems that the idea is that the base of the models are generally made of Space Marines, that they play as Necrons on the tabletop, and most of the miniatures are generally Space Marine parts with Necron bits added on for a bit of styling and theme. On the left here we seem to have, I think, a chunky Gravis guy. It seems that he's taking on the role of a Necron Overlord here, a great big war scythe in hand, and I guess that technological device will be a Tachyon arrow stand in there. Things like the Trail of Necron cloak, the loincloth style thing, and the extra heraldry and things really give him the theme. I believe that's mainly bits from the Indomitus or Combat Patrol style Lord. Then it seems that Ironfather Phyros has been fused with a Scorpet Lord for the next one, getting his 3 robotic legs, plus having his axe blade having a head swap, which I think looks rather cool with the Scorpet Lord version there, and then one of the servo arms repurposed for Scorpet Lord's gun. Then next up it looks like we've got some Heresy era Space Marines fused with some Lich Guard. Looks like they're going with Necron legs and arms, but the Space Marine armour for the most part. Iron Hands heraldry on the shoulder pads. I feel like those 30k helms look rather excellent paired with the Necron tech. And then it seems that we've got some Immortals commanded by a Technomancer here. The Space Marine portion and helm on the Technomancer I think look rather effective there in my opinion. And then it looks like we've got a Chaplain mixed with Imitate the Stormlord for a rather chunky commander figure. Really quite an awesome idea. It's fun to see how the different Necron units have been realised in different ways with Space Marine units. Before we move on to some other eclectic combos and creations, I'll just give a quick shout out to today's video sponsor in Warhaus. If you're looking for cheaper Warhammer in Australia, they've got Warhammer products priced at 23% off Games Workshop prices, one of the highest discount rates in the world, and certainly seem to have made a big splash on the 40k scene since opening earlier in the year. You can find their website links below in the video description. It's quite a nice modern design, really quite easy to search, and they'll do all the normal local discount retailer things. You can back order things if they're not in stock, so you can order them in from Games Workshop. They have their Warhaus Warpoint system for some further discounts if you register for that, and they have free shipping over 150 Australian dollars. Their stores open at this address outside Brisbane. They aim to have the shelves stocked, and they've got a full-size gaming table in store for public use. For most recent updates for them for the start of June, they've only recently started shipping internationally, with plenty of things being dispatched beyond Australia, and they've launched their first products in a painting handle and hobby craft knife. They'll be aiming to get good stock of the Chaos Knights this weekend, obviously that depending on Games Workshop and what they give them, but could be one option to check for stock with the Battle Forces and the new Knight Ruinator. In any case though, a big thank you to them for sponsoring the video. Feel free to check them out, links down in the video description. Next up, and while previously we had Space Marines going Necron, for the next creations we've got Caesar the King, who decided to have Orcs take up the mantle of the Adeptus Astartes. These Spice Marines, as they're called, were able to seize control of a massive depot of arms and armour from a Forge World, happily looting all sorts of clandestine supplies that were destined for a bunch of Space Marine chapters, and the aim of the army is to have one Orc unit to represent one unit from each Space Marine chapter. The whole thing generally aimed to be run as Orcs, though with most of the models having close enough equivalents that you can run the entire thing as Space Marines if you'd like to. I particularly like these creations. We've got some Deathwing Knights there on the bottom right, which I guess will be run as Meganobs. I really like the all very mysterious hooded Orc out the front. We've got some White Scars Biker Boys on the bottom left, and then a bunch of gloriously looted Landspeeder Deathcopters. Not 100% sure if they're supposed to be either Raven Wing or Raven Guard perhaps. Beyond that, we've got a great big looted Redemptor Dreadnought that's standing in for a Death Dread there, some rank and file regular boys in Ultra Marines Heraldry, and then a whole bunch of different chapters on the left there. Recognise Black Templars and Lamenters and some more. The Orcs seemingly enjoying their new power armour. Then to round it off, we've got some Sanguinary Guard Storm Boys. The boss on the left has got some Custodes bits and is apparently a shield boss. It looks like they've got some loyal Imperial mortals to help them out, with Gretchen acting up as some Imperial Guard. Absolutely love the creativity for these. Some pretty epic kit bashes all in all there. Next up, Jupiter sent in some Bretonnian and Empire style Admech. The idea for this one is that it's a all very knightly and feudal themed Forge World, and seems like the idea is to lean even further into the bizarre and archaic techno creations than even the regular Admech have. Looks like these guys are aimed to represent a unit of Sidonian Dragoons, the Chicken Walkers with the Taser Lancers, and seems they are using a whole bunch of Dragoon parts and fused with, I think I want to say they were the old Prosecutor wings, plus some sort of Stormcast Eternal Bird Cavalry heads there. I'm not sure of the exact type. But overall, I feel like the vibe is just really effective there. A nice mix of bizarre Admech creation and Skitaris fused with a whole bunch of knightly bits and Stormcast style Sigmar trappings on the mounts. Otherwise, we've got some more fun cavalry with some sort of techno unicorn style riders there. Looks like they're probably to represent some Cerberus raiders, though I guess they could be Sulphur Hounds too. Nice to see that each mount is painted differently with its own heraldry too. And then to stand in from that Sidonian Scatros. Looks like they're using that Fusel Major on an Ogre Warhawk, which I guess is a very good stand-in for the same sort of tall boy sniper but for Age of Sigmar. Overall, looks like some really cool creations once again. I've even got some more of the Chicken Walkers, these ones being the sniper configuration for the Dragoons it seems. Must have taken a whole load of effort. There's some really epic fusions of kits. For our next one, we've essentially got a Genestealer Cult army that's represented by Astra Militarum. This one credited to just make stuff. The theme behind this one is that it is an entirely Astra Militarum regiment. It's just playing with the Genestealer Cult rules to represent their unorthodox tactics and ability to wrongfoot the enemy. The theme for it is commanded by Commissar Gaunt, and is basically leading the ragtag defenders of an imperial world, the theme being a sort of, I guess, British Home Guard style thing, maybe a bit more of a citizen militia as opposed to an outright war force. They use their plucky tactics, stealth and guile to suppress chaos and Genestealer Cult uprisings. There's a bunch of really epic proxies for this one. Bulgrin standing in for Aberrants, as Caschans as Acolytes, regular Guardsmen as Neophytes. Then I quite like the way that Jackals are represented by cavalry miniatures, with small armoured cars to stand in for the Wolf Quads that have a bit more fire support, and then some old school armoured car style things to represent the Achilles Ridge Runners. You can see one of those on the top left in this shot here. They didn't send in too many close-ups of this one, but here's a set of the entire army all put together. It's certainly well done and executed the theme well. All the individual units look like good loyal Imperial citizens fighting against the enemies, but at the same time it's clearly a Genestealer Cult army, with the units all representing those. Those were perhaps 5 of the ones that impressed me most out of the whole army conversions, and believe me, there's plenty more that I wish I had time to feature, but otherwise I thought I'd pick out a whole bunch of individual unit proxies and conversions, maybe going for swapping out one unit for another, or doing something unusual with it, as opposed to an enormous high-effort army project. The Rock has converted up a whole bunch of Knight Armigers to represent various different Xenos factions. There's a tower one with a hovering drone and a binocular spotter there, an Eldari Wraith style one that I guess you could use as a Wraith Lord if you want to, and a great big mutated Tyrannid one that's pretty spectacular, an already unholy fusion of biology and machine. Apparently they're sometimes used together as a Knight army that's commanded by presumably very rogue tech priests, or can be used as proxy stand-ins for individual Xenos armies. I guess those Armiger kits and War Dogs do feel like really nice bases for conversions to me. For another Genestealer cult project, there was this Tau one that was shared by Cult of Ymir. I feel like it's a fairly cool idea to have Genestealers infecting the various other different Xenos species out there. I feel like Games Workshop with their human line of Genestealer cults, I'd perhaps try and use the lore to discourage it in other armies a little bit, such they're just never going to make models for that. But to me it kind of makes sense that if you're going to have Genestealers that can mess with alien DNA, it'd be weird to have it only limited to humans. In any case, looks like the Tower succumbs to the influence of the cult here. I really like the hovering Ridge Runner conversion here with a bunch of drones as sort of anti-grav generators. There's a Pathfinder with rail rifle. I guess he's standing in for a Sanctus sniper there. And I really like the Genestealer cult graffiti on the ruin that he's perched in. And then I guess an Ethereal Commander. I guess he'd be an Acolyte Icon Ward using Tau tech with a bunch of Genestealer cult talismans. For a few more slightly quickfire ones, one unit that made a fairly big stir in that Skaven type box set were the Age of Sigmar Prosecutors. Also, people really quite like the wing design of these for a bunch of different purposes. Looks like Jameson Birch has repurposed them for Venatari for the Adeptus Custodes. I feel like they're really quite a popular one to get stand-in models for, given that most of the Custodes army is quite so cheap and affordable, and then the Forge World ones are mad expensive. Looks like he's been painted up to fit in with his Custodes army, given a Guardian Spear and really looking the part with just a shoulder pad swap or two. Could be one option if you want to get them on the board for a fair bit cheaper than Games Workshop would sell them. Rather than saving money, I feel like there's a fair bit of frustration for the Chaos Biker kit at the moment. An interesting unit that you might want to field in game, though the models just go back a crazy amount of time at this point. So it looks like someone here has decided to take it upon themselves to convert some Chaos Space Marines riding some Chaos Warrior cavalry, and maybe adding in a bit of technology to the steed. It looks like the one on the right has maybe got a plasma gun or something protruding from its mouth. Perhaps trying to go for a little bit like the Admech sort of techno-cavalry style thing. Looks like that could be another cool way to get them on the table. For another Chaos stand-in taken from Sigmar, this Hellpit Abomination was used as a Forge Fiend by Hereticus Chirurgia. Demon Engines feel like one where, if you wanted, you could make all sorts of mad creations, and provided it's the same sort of general size and shape, you can imagine these issuing forth from the diseased minds and forges of warpsmiths out there. Looks like the Hellpit Abomination has been fused with the Forge Fiend. I want to say that's the face next to the rats there, plus a couple of big ectoplasma cannons, and a sort of smokestack things, all ready to provide some very heretical fire support. Here's a fairly simple and effective steed conversion by Paul04. Eldari Exodites are something that Games Workshop haven't done, and again are a pretty popular army for some fan kit bashes. It looks like for a faction commander this one's taken an Autarch and put him on the back of a steed for a character called Agradon from the Seraphim miniatures for Age of Sigmar. I feel like they tend to be a particularly popular choice for kit bashing things, given people's imaginations often go for sort of dinosaur cavalry type things when people think of Eldari Exodites. I feel like the overall effect is pretty cool for this one. Looks like they've used the warp jump generator as as a sort of breastplate for the dino steeds. That's quite a fun touch there. Made for examples of some fairly straightforward system hops. It's certainly really common to see Heresy era Marines standing in for Chaos Space Marines. Alexei the Glue Archon has made use of a Land Raider Proteus and some Heresy era Space Marines to fill in bodies for their 40k army. There's lots of cool models, plenty of Legion specific stuff that you can dig into a bit more than 40k tends to have. Kind of makes sense for the Traitor Marines to have a bunch of relic tech going around, and it can often be a cheaper source of things like bodies. Things like their 10 strong Terminators or 20 strong Tactical Marines tend to be quite good, and there's some good discount deals like the old Age of Darkness box sets. There were a few more examples of those from someone called Tellable here. Again, some fairly direct range swaps here, running a Heresy era Thousand Sons Contemptor as a Thousand Sons Hellbrute now. It might just need a little bit of proxying with the weapons, or maybe using things like Gal Vorbak as possessed. That's another really quite common one I've seen a few times. Finally, I feel like we couldn't do a video like this without a bit of standard Ork looting. Certainly loads of ingenious mechs sharing their various scrap creations. Here's another looted Knight Armiger used as a Death Dread. All sorts of parts stacked on this guy. I can identify a few of them, but certainly not others. There's a mad amount of technological innovation gone into this one. Thanks to Chris first for sending in that. Just for the sheer ingenuity of this one, I wanted to credit Bulbasaur Boy for the looted Doom Scythe. Seems that what they've done is taken the Necron tech, Mount it sideways, almost looking like a bit like a bad moon or something, and then mount a bunch of guns and saw blades on it and fists on tracks, plus with a few more bolted on orc goblins and armor glyphs and things. Apparently that one gets run as a Morkanaut in-game. I did enjoy the alternative take on Storm Boys as well, using some Tau drones. That does feel like an all very orky way to get around if they've been fighting the forces of the greater good. Finally for the orcs, we've also got this boy, apparently having looted a good chunk of a Chaos-based Ruin Defiler here. Mini Axecrafters seem to create a rather epic looking demon orc here. That certainly looks like one of the biggest and most impressive power claws that I've seen a warboss try and attach to themselves. Seems that he's going a bit on the heretical side, growing some big demonic wings as well. I quite like the lava effect on the base too. In any case though, hope you've enjoyed a cross-section of some really fun conversions that have been sent in to me. As mentioned, a big thank you to everyone who sent stuff in, and also Steve, Rowan and Finn for coming up with the idea for this one. Let me know your thoughts on all the mad creations here, and tell me about any other cool creations that you've done yourself of this sort of ilk. I look forward to hearing your thoughts down in the comments. As mentioned, a big thank you to Warhaus for sponsoring the video. If you'd like to pick up some 40k things for use in your armies or insane kit bashes, whatever works, feel free to check them out, links down in the video description. They've got one of the better discount rates in Australia. I'll leave that there for now though. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more like this. I'll certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming, with new ones out just about every day. If you'd like to support the channel, then feel free to check out the Patreon page. That's linked down in the video description, and that gets a few advantages, seeing certain videos early occasionally, and automatic entry into the regular monthly prize giveaways, with a chance to win some big model kits. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case though, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.